We're thrilled to welcome in Doug Armstrong, a frequent guest for us, and we always appreciate your time. Your decision to make those big moves and make them well ahead of the deadline, what informed those decisions?
Well, I just think what we do here is when we get to a situation, we put three columns together. What's a very good deal for us? What's one we can accept, and what's one we'd be disappointed in? And when you get to the very good or accept, you move forward. I'm not a big believer in having to maximize and win every deal. You want to do what you think is right for yourself. And when we got to that point with our decisions, we made them and moved forward. I think one of the things that we were honest with ourselves right at around American Thanksgiving, that if things didn't turn around, we had to be prepared for this. So we had months to allow teams to know that what we would do if we didn't have success quickly. And when we got to that point, I think everyone knew what our decisions, who was going to be available, what we were looking for, and then they could go to work to see if they were fits for their organizations.
Doug, you've been doing this a long time now. You've done a great job. You've won Stanley Cups with different franchises, so that's something that very few executives get to do. When you look at the marketplace this year, I mean, it seems like it's been a crazy year for us covering it. There was a lot of trades in the run-up, not as many today on deadline day. Has this been a different marketplace for you, do you think, this year?
Well, I guarantee it has been for me, and I say that just because I've been fortunate in my term as a general manager in Dallas and here never to be in the sell mode to this extent. And I said to somebody, I didn't realize it's a lot harder being a sell than it is a buyer. And it's something that you certainly don't want to get comfortable with and do a lot of. But as I said, this was our first time for me going through this. And EJ, the only silver lining in this whole season was we picked a good year to have a bad year because of the number of quality free agents that we had to work with. That doesn't happen all the time. And so it's very difficult to part with people that have made my career what it is today. And I'm speaking first and foremost about Vladimir Tarasenko. My first year here as a manager, we were able to draft him and Jaden Schwartz. And Vladdy took me on a hell of a ride for a number of years. And so I thank him. And then O'Reilly coming in, for half year, 5 or 6 years and being a good player, taking us to the pinnacle in Boston in 2019. And so there's difficult times when you have to say goodbye to those guys. But with that being said, I was excited that we were able to put them both in spots I think that they would be happy playing in. Both have to be excited about the franchises that they're working with now and the ability to try and push for a Stanley Cup. I saw Vladdy play last night. I love that goal that he scored. It reminded me of a goal he scored in New York while with the Blues. He's such a talented player. And then flipping over between our game and the Toronto game and watching Ryan O'Reilly put on a clinic in the third period on how to play a strong, structured game. And Mikla Bertuzzo and Achari, like all good players that I have a ton of respect for. Hopefully they're happy in the spots that we've put them in, and it allows us to have to unfortunately turn the page and build towards the next generation.
Army, I just, in my opinion, in the NHL, it's whether you're a player, coach, management like you, and I think you know this, you gotta have conviction. You gotta believe in what you believe, and you gotta go. And you can't, straddle the fence, toe the line. You're all in. And I find that you have done this in the past, and I remember it stuck with me a few years back when you traded Paul Stastny to the Winnipeg Jets. And you guys, I think, were only like 2 points out of the playoffs. And it was kind of like at the time, whoa, what's going on here? And it's like you had, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you've always seemed to have a read of your team and a feel, and you're going with it, and you feel that to your bones. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Were you going through that again this year, and how difficult was that decision?
It really wasn't that difficult. The difficult part is knowing you have to make hard decisions that affect people you respect and trust. But my job is for the organization, and my job is for the fan base moving forward. I think it was Marv Levy. George McPhee told me this thing. If you think like a fan, soon you'll be a fan. And my job is to do what I think is best for the team moving forward. And it was a hard decision. Hard decision had to be made. But I think you have to be honest at where you're at. And I agree with you. There's no sense being one-footed or dipping your toe in this professional sports, you should know who you are and what you stand for and make those decisions based on the information.
I thought it was so classy hearing you talk about Tarasenko and the ride he took you on, and Ryan O'Reilly, just classy through and through. I wanted to follow up on something you said earlier that was really intriguing to me. Being a seller is much harder than being a buyer. Tell us why.
Well, I think from my experiences, when you're buying, you're usually buying one, maybe two things, and your puzzle is 93 to 95% complete, and you're looking for one piece that can just make it and frame it perfectly. I think as a seller, and especially a seller in our situation with a high quality of players that were unrestricted, the number of people you have to talk to, the number of, when we try and make a trade, guys, you go through, okay, well, I know what's in this for me, what's in it for the other team. How can I paint them a picture of why I think what I'm asking for is fair for what these players are going to bring? And then that these guys are getting that same calls from different players and different teams. And so it's, as I said, my belief is I want to make trades that if I receive that call, I could see the logic in it. I think it's frustrating for managers when they receive calls where you hang up and you say, okay, I see what that guy gets in it, but I get nothing out of it. And so you try and walk that fine line of doing something that everyone can walk away happy with. And hopefully the teams that we work with feel that, and we can make trades in the future. But to answer that question, I think it's just when you're buying, you're usually just buying a small piece to close things out. When you're selling, you're looking at so many different options, whether it's a player that is under contract, whether it's a draft choice, whether it's a prospect that is a year or two away, and putting it all in together with the number of pieces that you have, and how does that create a picture maybe in 3 or 4 years that you can be proud of.
Doug, there's this year it seemed like almost an unprecedented number of defensemen that were on the move. It seemed like an endless number of defensemen. We're going from place to place. You've got a bunch of defensemen there, some guys who are real veteran guys. There was some talk out there that teams were looking at some of them. You get to the offseason now. I mean, is this something you're going to address in terms of your group of defensemen to try to reset that group? How are you going to approach that in the off year?
Well, I think we need to reset it in the sense that a year ago and up until this year, when you look at if you take we'll call them the big four, the four experienced players of Leddy and Falk and Parenko and Krug have been very good players in the NHL for a number of years. And for whatever reason, EJ, it just wasn't a good year for our team defensively. We gave up more chances. Just our structure hasn't been solid. It's a whole host of things have gone wrong on our own end. And I know these guys are really good players. I know they're going to get it back. So what my goal and my hope is that at the end of the year, we sit down and we find out what do they maybe need to do differently to train to give themselves a better opportunity. What structural things do we need to change? Because a year ago, we had 109 points. And a year ago, I thought we played Colorado very good, the future Stanley Cup champions, and they were big pieces of that. So Rupert can probably when you're going to play 12, 13, 15 years in the league, they're all not going to be Rembrandts. Yeah. And this is a year that we probably didn't give our best, put our best foot forward, but I have faith in these guys that they're going to get that back. They're extremely proud human beings. And I know that they want to put their best foot forward and get us back quickly.
To follow up on your point, those Avs lost 4 games en route to the Cup, 2 of them to your team. Yeah. Classy as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Guys, thank you very much for having me on, and I always enjoy watching you.